Welcome to Dependable Flame, where we explore vintage petrol lighters, ashtrays, tobacconiana, and other useful mechanisms. Make yourself at home.
So once you have your flint tube cleared out, then you're free to put your lighter back together. If you are going to re-wick it, you could always choose to re-wick it before you put the mechanism on. So the order of the things, the different procedures that we are doing here doesn't necessarily matter. Learning from my mistakes would be helpful, I think. So just keep some of those things in mind. Let's go ahead and get the mechanism reassembled. Have another file wheel here that, I don't know, it feels like it might be a little sharper. So we will go ahead and put it back together with this one. Now, this is your clutch spring on most older type Ronson automatic lighters. It fits up into the snuffer cap, and as I said, this particular cap has the gears integrated into it, but some clutch springs are different. Here we have one just like you were looking at. But with the gear type mechanism, where you would have to fit these into the sides before you reassemble it. It's not really all that difficult. It's the mechanism that most Ronson enthusiasts know well. But sometimes the clutch spring will be integrated into the top of the cap right here. That's what is going to engage the teeth on the side of the file wheel. That is your clutch spring. If you have an implement like that in there, then you won't need the typical cutout sheet metal spring. But for our purposes on this lighter, we have the sheet metal spring. We slide it up into place in the snuffer. We're going to get our plunger spring and thumb lever. We're going to get those lined up with our snuffer. Go ahead and get it timed, holding everything in this particular fashion sort of downward. So once we got everything lined up, get our fulcrum screw in place. Line things up here from the back side. Get our fulcrum screw flush. Fulcrum cap. our fulcrum cap tightened down. Flint back down the tube, and our flint spring screw in place. Before we get it all the way tightened down, groove our lighter, or groove our flint, and we'll get it tightened the rest of the way down. Always tighten by hand if you can. That does look like it's working better with that wheel. So now, for demonstration purposes, we are going to move back to the lighter that we dug out the flint out of the tube, or drilled it out. Get our fuel screw out here. And if you don't have any experience changing the wicks in vintage petrol lighters, this is it. This is the work. You are basically coaxing all that wadding out of that little hole. And then we will install a new wick, because the wick will come out as well, and put all the new wadding back in through this hole. So the easiest way to start is always just with a pick. Get that wadding up to the surface. If you can get a hold of it and pull out substantial pieces without tearing it, then usually, well, maybe I shouldn't say usually. A lot of times, you can pull it out in long strands rather than tiny pieces. But as you can see, it's not going great for me at the moment. If I was a younger man, this would be a much easier job. As I said, my hands are damaged, and I can only do so much at one time. And the wadding seems to be somewhat stale or fragile itself. But at some point here, we should get enough of it out that it'll become a little bit easier, because there'll be a little bit more room freed up, especially right there around that hole. just bit by bit, piece by piece, what you can pull up without it breaking. Until hopefully it starts coming out a little bit more freely. Okay, now that's coming out a little easier. Finally. See the wick there? See how much we have left in there?